It's day 83 of 118 days for the Tudors, and today is 1567. And in this year, Mary, Queen of Scots, has one husband who is murdered and another one who runs away. Very eventful year for Mary, Queen of Scots. And I will just quickly preface this video by letting you know that it does contain references to abuse of a sexual nature. So last year, yesterday, we left Darnley in disgrace, still king, but Mary at a bit of a loss what to do about him, and she was assured that he would be dealt with. In the February, Darnley and his servant are found murdered at a house at Kirk O'Field, where the house had been blown up, and the bodies of Darnley and his servant were found in the garden, either strangled or suffocated. Now, Mary actually suffered a mental breakdown after this and didn't recover for several months, but obviously she was implicated. Nothing really happens at this time. All the nobles who might have been suspected were kind of let off. Any of their servants were kind of let off. One man who was suspected, a man called James Hepburn, Lord Bothwell, he was acquitted, but he'd made it very clear that he wanted to marry Mary, Queen of Scots. So he had a bit of a motive for getting rid of her husband. Darnley's dead. We're back to the old time where Mary's worried about who's going to try and grab her. So as I said, this Bothwell, he's made it very clear he wants to marry Mary. The nobles fully support this. Mary has said, no, not interested. However, he's not so happy about being refused. So after she has refused him and a bunch of men kidnap her. And Bothwell, with his men fully present, forces himself on Mary. And one of his men are reported, and they agree that this happened. One of his men are reported as saying the following: "The Queen could not but marry him, seeing he had ravished her and lain with her against her will." So she said no to this man. He's gone and abused her, knowing full well that if he does that, she will be forced to marry him. So she is a Catholic. There's a good chance she can be pregnant after this. She now has to marry this man. This was in the April, when she'd just been to visit her son at Stirling Castle. Then on the 12th of May, she declared that though she had never wanted to marry Bothwell, she was now going to marry him. However, this was a deeply unpopular marriage. He might have been supported at one point. He's not being supported now. The nobles revolt about this. Bothwell runs off and runs away to Denmark. Mary is then sent as a prisoner to a fortress at Loch Leven. They are then thinking about so they just don't want Mary anymore, essentially. They would like to get rid of her, and they would like her infant son James on the throne. So they are thinking, right, well, we could put her into exile, but we don't really want her back in France causing trouble, or we could put her on trial for murder, the murder of Darnley. Now, England catches wind of all this, and Nicholas Throckmorton is sent to Scotland by Elizabeth to try and stop her, try and stop all of this happening. But in particular, they don't want her running off to France because they sort of worry what political implications that could have. And it's thought that actually Nicholas Throckmorton, even though he wasn't there to kind of, rush in and save the day, he was there politically for Elizabeth, but he probably saved her life by being there and trying to help with the negotiations. So Mary is pregnant with Bothwell's child. Again, she doesn't want a divorce because that's going to illegitimise her child. Now, in the summer, she does actually miscarry this baby. So then in the July of 1567, around the time she will have lost this baby, she is forced to abdicate the throne in favour of her infant son, James. She is 24 years old at this point, and the council want to keep her locked up for life. So that's where we are with her in 1567. Her husband has been murdered. She is assaulted and made pregnant by a man who she then has to marry, who then runs off and she is forced to give up her throne. She miscarries her child, and the council want to lock her up for the rest of her life, and she's 24 years old. I wonder if cousin Elizabeth might help her out at this point. So join me tomorrow for 1568, and we'll see what happens to Mary.